Hey everybody, HomeSliceHenry here, and in today's video, I'm going to be showcasing a former Master League meta Pokemon that against all odds has risen to meta status once again, and that is Melmetal. Melmetal used to be Master League meta, but it's been severely power crept throughout the seasons. But this season, thanks to a Thundershock buff and different charge moves to what it ran previously, it's now back in a major way. The meta has shifted, there's a ton of Kyogre, a ton of Water, Yveltal, and Enamorus, and Melmetal, running Legacy Double Iron Bash and Thunderbolt, is a great core breaker for all those Pokemon. So without further ado, let's hop into the matches, and we're off to a terrific start in game number 1, leading Melmetal into Kyogre, and the Kyogre is not switching out. So this tells me there's a very strong likelihood that the opponent is core broken by Melmetal. Thunderbolt is going to be shielded. Now they've seen Thunderbolt, they're continuing to stay in, so something must be seriously wrong for the opponent that they're staying in this matchup, as this is a losing matchup for Kyogre. Kyogre is going to get pretty significantly outpaced here, Thunderbolt already proving its use as I'm able to grab both shields from the opponent. Melmetal, I'm more than happy to commit the shield, make it to a Thunderbolt, and pick up the KO. Opponent is going to save switch into Tapu Lele, and Tapu Lele's not going to like what Melmetal has in store for it. That's going to be back-to-back double Iron Bash. Thundershock to double Iron Bash is only 8 turns. It is insanely fast. Here, Tapu Lele doesn't even get to a single charge move. It just gets absolutely shredded by Melmetal, and now I have the alignment that I want. So I should be in a winning position. They bring in Kyogre, I can't make it to a Thunderbolt, but now I can send in Palkia. In the back is going to be a Charm Primarina, and Charm Primarina has a very poor matchup into Landorus. So Landorus gets to fire off the Sandsear Storm, that deals pretty significant damage. The opponent is forced to throw a Hydro Cannon to pick up the KO, but now I can just win the game with Palkia. The opponent, they don't have the energy needed to make a Disarming Voice. So on Palkia, I can just make the Aqua Tail will KO, and Kyogre has zero hope of beating Palkia. So the opponent sees the writing on the wall and concedes the match. We move to game number 2, Melmetal versus Zacian. Another good lead for Melmetal. Typically for Melmetal, you're going to want to throw a double Iron Bash early on, but your second double Iron Bash, you're going to want to try and get the CMP tie as the Zacian throws their back-to-back. So here, they are going to be firing off their first, going for the close combat. They're not doubled up quite yet, so I'm just going to go for the double Iron Bash. Their defense is debuffed, so this will just KO them if they let it through. This used to be a matchup that even with double Iron Bash, Melmetal had loose conditions in, but thanks to the Thundershock buff, now it's a very comfortable win for the Melmetal. Melmetal, this double Iron Bash will KO. Are they really willing to double shield? The answer is no. In comes Yveltal. I'm going to get the Thunderbolt. Thunderbolt is caught onto Dialga. Beautiful catch by my opponent. They're trying what they can, but unfortunately, they were just ABA weak to the Melmetal. The Zacian Yveltal core, both of which lose to this Melmetal moveset, and now they're in trouble. In comes Landorus, landing the Sandsear, getting the farm down. Back in comes Yveltal. Yveltal will fire off energy, but I know that Palkia can win the ones here. So as Palkia, I can just send it in and just go straight for this Aqua Tail. If they shield the Aqua Tail, I can make it to Aqua Tail number 2, as Palkia does have a pacing advantage, and if they let it go, I can just Dragon Breath all the way down. They are going to fire off energy. They're trying to get to the back-to-back, but unfortunately, they don't have enough HP to do so. They're going for the Focus Blast just to show that they have it, and that is a good game. Picking up a terrible lead in the next match, Melmetal into Zygarde, save switch into Landorus, and my opponent is going to choose to stay in here. I'm just going to fire off the Sandsear Storm right away. It's not the greatest timing. I do concede 2 free turns of energy, but my goal is just to apply a debuff to make this matchup a little bit better for Landorus. This is never going to be a winning matchup for Landorus, but the goal here is basically just to soften up the Zygarde, and then hopefully Melmetal will have play versus what they have in the back. So the opponent is going to be firing off more energy. They did unfortunately get the Crunch debuff on the first try, and they will get a farm down. They're very heavily debuffed, so I'm going to send in Palkia. Palkia is going to be met with a move, but they did not build up to an Outrage. So I am actually very, very okay letting that go, farming all the way down, and getting a ton of energy. Opponent going to bring in Enamorus. Enamorus does get 2-shot by Aqua Tail. So suddenly this matchup does not feel as comfortable for my opponent. If they no-shield this, they are going to be losing this energy, so they will commit the shield. There's the switch to the Melmetal, and my opponent throws a fly. Not saving the energy for the Palkia tells me that they don't have a strong answer in the back, and it's going to be Duskmane. Now this is a losing matchup for Melmetal, but I do have a shield and energy advantage, and that is going to be very helpful. Additionally, my opponent desynced the switch timers by throwing that fly, so that's something that I will be able to take advantage of later. They're actually on Iron Head on the Necrozma, so they are walled, but I need to keep health on the Melmetal. I'm going to switch into Palkia. My opponent is going to fire off their energy just to try and burn the clock, so that way they'll be able to bring in Enamorus. Enamorus is going to get the farm down, but now it's going to be Melmetal's turn to farm all the way down. They can go for the fly, but Melmetal does not care. Melmetal, thanks to that buffed Thundershock damage, is going to get the full farm down. In comes Duskmane, and the back-to-back double Iron Bashes are reached. Opponent is going to shield the first, but there's another one locked and loaded, and this double Iron Bash KOs Duskmane, and we're able to clutch a win despite leading Melmetal into Zygarde. Now bad leads continue. Melmetal into Rhyperior, safe switch into Landorus, and my opponent actually stays in. The fact that they're staying in tells me this is probably going to be Rhyperior double Fairy. That's a very common team, and it just so happens to be triple weak to Landorus. I'm able to land the Sandsear Storm, which is very nice. They land a debuffed Rock Wrecker, and now Zacian hits the field of play. I get to immediately debuff the Zacian with Sandsear Storm, and I can even threaten a second Sandsear Storm unless they throw their energy. They definitely could have overfarmed more there, but I'm very happy they chose to throw right away, as now I can get a ton of farm on the Melmetal. Because Rhyperior, obviously a bad matchup for Melmetal, but they've already taken a lot of damage. Double Iron Bash hits for super effective. I respect the close combat. It turns out they're running Wild Charge instead, and I farm up just shy of 100 energy. Double Iron Bash picks up the KO. In comes Rhyperior, and look at this. Melmetal is insanely spammy. Double Iron Bash number 1. I make it to double Iron Bash number 2. Rhyperior now at 40 energy, 1 away from the Rock Wrecker. They need to get there, and they can't get to the move. They just get absolutely overwhelmed with the insane charge attack spam from Melmetal. In the back is Primarina, and Rhyperior double Fairy just got absolutely destroyed by Melmetal. Thunderbolt, massive damage onto Primarina. Primarina is going to fire off a last second charge attack, but there's no way I'm not letting Melmetal get the sweep. So I shield up with the Melmetal, get the Thundershock down, and that is a good game. In the next game, Melmetal staring down a Dialga. We are actually walled here, and that's actually a Metal Claw Dialga. And this trainer, this is 2900 elo, they're legend pushing. So, interestingly enough, they're trading the damage of Dragon Breath for the pacing on Metal Claw. I'm going to bank a ton of energy, save switch into the Landorus. They're going to respond with a Waterfall Primarina. Primarina, of course, with Waterfall, way more effective against the Landorus. Sandsear Storm is going to connect, and the opponent throws a Hydro Cannon very early. I'm happy to let this go because I have evil intentions, and that is a massive one shield farm down with Palkia. Palkia absolutely crushes Waterfall Primarina. Normally, it's Palkia's worst nightmare, but on Waterfall, and they're actually running Moonblast instead of Disarming Voids, look at how much energy I get. And now in the back, they have their own Palkia, but I have 100 energy locked and loaded. Spatial Rend is going to be shielded. I think it's highly likely they double shield, so I decide to go for a risky bait. The bait pays off, the switch to Melmetal, and this energy from earlier that was so useless against Dialga is suddenly useful as I can land a Thunderbolt onto Palkia. Palkia now going to be hit with Thunderbolt number 2, and I'm able to inflict some serious damage onto my opponent. My opponent is going to actually make a switch out here as I get to the double Iron Bash and catch onto Dialga. But the nice thing is my switch timer is almost up. And since this is a Metal Claw Dialga, they actually have a bad matchup against Palkia. So I can throw the double Iron Bash, switch out into Palkia, and their Metal Claws just do nothing in this matchup. I will commit the shield as they go for the Roar of Time, and I need the double up. If I get the back-to-back Aqua Tails, I notice their Palkia does not have Best Buddy Boost equipped, and I equipped mine, which means in the CMP tie, it's not a coin flip. I'm guaranteed to win it, and they're low enough already that a double resisted Aqua Tail will basically put them at 1 HP. Spatial Rend is going to KO my Palkia, but one Thundershock from the Melmetal means we're able to escape with a win. Tricky lead in the next match, Melmetal versus Zamazenta. Zamazenta is a terrifying Pokemon to go up against. as Zamazenta, of course, has access to close combat with same type attack bonus, and that would absolutely rock Melmetal. There are also a lot of Zamazenta at high elo Master League. People are realizing that it is an absolute force to be reckoned with. Close combat is going to be shielded. I'm firing off the double Iron Bash. Double Iron Bash is going to be no shielded by the Zamazenta, and now I'm in a tricky position. I'm forced to go down 2 shields. I need to preserve the Melmetal. Can I get the Thunder Shock down? I'm not going to risk it. I switch into the Palkia, and I snipe. In comes Enamorus. Enamorus will be able to outpace and make it to double fly before I am able to make it to my next Aqua Tail. So the first Aqua Tail is going to land, but they do have enough for double fly here. So they are going to fire off fly number 1. That's going to get Palkia very low. I go for the Aqua Tail, and they make a switch and a catch onto their own Melmetal. So my opponent also running Melmetal, and this is going to be an interesting game because I have Landorus, which of course does great into Melmetal, as unfortunately I do get 1 turn bring-in lag there, so I should have got a mud shot through that I didn't. My opponent is now going to lose the CMP tie as I get to fire off the Sandsear Storm. Sandsear Storm is going to be shielded. They're spamming out these double Iron Bashes, and even though this is a type advantage matchup for the Landorus, Melmetal puts in so much work. They do a beautiful combo play here, sniping me with the fly, and now it's up to my Melmetal to try and sweep. I will get a full farm down. Opponent's going to bring back in theirs, and I will fire off the Thunderbolt. Thunderbolt is going to get my opponent very low, so they're going to commit the shield. I make it to another Thunderbolt, and I lose the coin flip CMP tie. It's a 50-50, and I do not get it, but I believe they are going to be at a lower health than me. Thunderbolt is going to land. They are now deep into the red. I make the double Iron Bash, and I lose a second 50-50. That's as close as a game can be, and unfortunately, we fall just 1 HP short on that Melmetal. Picking up a good lead in the next match, Melmetal again going up against Zacian. And I'm very happy because this is a type advantage matchup for the Melmetal, even though they have close combat, and I keep it away from the Palkia. Opponent is going to save switch into Dialga, and I get to save all that energy on the Melmetal and respond with Landorus. Landorus is, of course, going to do great here, full charging the Sandsear Storm, and my opponent shields. Honestly, that was pretty surprising to me. They end up shielding. Usually, Dialgas will let it go and just try and take the 1-0 shield advantage, but in this instance, they are really trying to protect this Dialga at all costs. I fire off the Sandsear. We're going to see a double shield from my opponent, and they're going to fire off their energy right before I get the move. I will commit the shield. I just want to get rid of the Dialga. I go for the Sandsear, and they catch onto a Veltal. My opponent genuinely playing very, very well. I'm going to bring in Palkia. Palkia, of course, has a neutral matchup here, but I just want to save the Melmetal's energy for dealing with the Zacian later on. Oblivion Wing is going to land. It's debuff, so it's not going to do a lot. I get to overfarm massively with the Palkia and fire off the Aqua Tail. I will go for an undercharge. That's going to leave a Veltal at very low HP, so I exit with even more energy. In comes Zacian. Zacian, I'm going to need to throw a lot of charge moves at this Pokemon to knock it out. So I get to another Aqua Tail, and this is going to be close. I do have energy stored on the Melmetal. Do I potentially go for the snipe? No, my opponent tries to read the snipe as they bring in Dialga, and I do have a lot of energy locked and loaded. Double Iron Bash number 1 is going to connect. That's not going to do much, and I build up to the back-to-back, and this forces my opponent into a 50-50. I have a move. They have a move. They win CMP, so I switch, and I get the prediction right. They throw the move expecting me to stay in, but I get the catch. They undercharge it, but it's too little too late, and Melmetal is able to clutch the win for us. Even though there are some meta Pokemon on the back, I really felt on this team Melmetal was putting in so much work. Picking up a bad lead, Melmetal into Ho-Oh. I'm going to save switch into Landorus. I did see quite a few Ho-Oh leads, and honestly, the majority of them I was able to win just by save switching into the Landorus. In this instance, my opponent is going to grab a shield, and then they're going to send in a Veltal. But a Veltal will immediately be met with a Stone Edge, and that is going to grab my opponent's shield. I farm up, going for Stone Edge number 2. I feel a bait here would be too risky, so I full send, and I get to land it. That is incredible, but here I fall just short of the Sandsear Storm. In comes Melmetal. If they have Focus Blast, I'm just going to let myself get KO'd, but it's just the Dark Pulse. That is very, very nice. 2 Dark Pulses will get me low, but I will exit with quite a bit of energy available on the Melmetal. So now I will get the full farm down, and I'm 1 away from this Thunderbolt. In comes Ho-Oh. I'm going to bring in Palkia, farming up quite a bit of energy, go for the Aqua Tail, and it's a CMP tie against the Ho-Oh. Aqua Tail into Ho-Oh, does get no-shielded, and that immediately has me worried. Because if they no-shielded, they know whatever's in back is going to win with a shield, and it's their own Palkia. So this was a winnable game for me. But unfortunately, cap tying the Ho-Oh actually came back to bite me in a massive way, as I just lose now. There's no way to win, and I will concede the match. Hopping into the final match, Melmetal against Palkia. This is a lead that is improved for Melmetal, now that Melmetal is, of course, having access to that buffed Thundershock. Thundershock will slowly add up over time, and Thunderbolt is going to connect as well, dealing some pretty sizable damage. And now the second Thunderbolt will come very close to KOing, so I have a choice to make. Do I go for the double Iron Bash bait and try and grab a shield, or do I full send the Thunderbolt? I decide to be risky. I'm expecting a shield. I go for the double Iron Bash to actually make a catch onto Dialga. That's fine for me. I'm going to rebank the Thunderbolt, send in Landorus, and now I should be in a pretty nice position. More than happy to shield up the Landorus and just look to get as much farm as I possibly can. So I'm going to build up to the back-to-back Sandseers, and you know what? I'm feeling a little greedy. I'm going to go for an undercharge here to hopefully leave them at 1 HP to get just a little bit of extra energy on that Landorus. They bring in the Palkia, and if they shield, they're in trouble, because I'm actually going to get to a second Sandseer Storm courtesy of that undercharge. Now this is going to knock out the Palkia. What do they have in the back? It's Ho-Oh. I bring in Palkia, and the opponent will resign the match. All in all, I think that this Melmetal moveset has a tremendous amount of play in the Master League at the current moment, which is honestly very surprising to me, because normally Melmetal in previous seasons was not the greatest, but this season it puts in quite a bit of work. The Thundershock buff helps it feel a lot more convincing in neutral matchups, and with double Iron Bash and Thunderbolt, it honestly has great coverage into most things that you're going to encounter along the way. I think if you're looking to team build around Melmetal, it pairs very well with water types, as Melmetal, since it no longer runs Rock Slide, is weaker to fire. So in this instance, I used Palkia. I have also seen like a Melmetal Palkia Kyogre, could potentially have a Waterfall Primarina behind it. There are quite a few options that you can use, and some pretty strong cores that can be made. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you're enjoying the content, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And a special thank you as always to our channel members here on YouTube. The support you guys provide is genuinely so appreciated. So thank you guys oh so very much. And until next time, I've been HomeSliceHenry.